What is up, everyone? It's Ryan Moran and Ryan Gallagher here for R&R Talking Football. Tonight we got a general NFL content episode for you. A lot has gone down the last couple of days after a slow start with the head coaching search and GM market. There's been a lot really since our last episode last Thursday or Friday with the previews for the divisional round, the morning after Joe Shane was hired by the Giants. And really since then, things have kind of started to pick up a little bit. There was a couple of big retirements from quarterbacks and head coaches. And, there's just a lot of buzz right now actually around the league. So I'm excited to get going, Ryan, if you have anything you want to start with.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an eventful episode. Obviously, there was 9 openings, head coaching vacancies, and now I think there's been 2 filled, and it just feels like a lot of the other teams are kind of down to their final choices, final couple candidates. So the dominoes are starting to fall as we're seeing, and like you said, it's kind of interesting because I feel like this is definitely. I believe it's been 17 days or 20 days since the season has ended for all the regular teams, and by now I think usually majority of them are filled. So I think this has definitely been kind of the slowest process, and we'll see if it pays off long term. But I can't wait to dive into it, and especially the playoff games we got coming this weekend.
Oh, absolutely. It was a fantastic divisional round as we expected. I went 0-4 on the week after 6-0 in the wild card round.
I went 1-3, and every game came down to literally the final kick or overtime. So just
Which we expected.
Really 50-50 coin toss. I guess we'll start there because let's get that out of the way, and we can talk about the coaches and stuff. I think it was the best weekend of playoff football I've ever seen. Honestly, like the standard of play was like so good. Each game had me glued to my seat at the very end, and like it was just like crazy. And honestly, like the games, like it wouldn't surprise me if any of those teams advanced because it was that good of quality of games. And some teams obviously got unfortunate. It just is what it is. Both number 1 seats get knocked out. That's shocking because most of the time the number 1 seats are going to the Super Bowl, and but not in this year's NFL, which is interesting.
Absolutely, you said it. I mean, all 4 games were fantastic. It was a great weekend. All games decided by the last play. 3 were by a field goal. Just some awesome football. I guess we'll start with the first game that happened between the Bengals and the Titans. 2 teams that did not have great offensive line play. Would you agree?
Totally, especially one of the Bengals, the team that won.
Yeah. I mean, Evan McPherson, probably the player of the game. I mean, awesome game from him. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase just continued to do what they've done. T. Higgins had a productive game. Their defense just continues to really, as a unit, play together and play well. And with the Titans, I mean, their defense definitely was improved this year, and it was really the complete opposite. I mean, this year it was just the fact that offensively they could not get enough going. Like I said, with the offensive line, Ryan Tannehill, they could just never really figure it out with Julio. And it was really just like A.J. Brown and I guess depending on how healthy Derrick Henry even was.
Yeah, and credit to the Bengals. No one thought they were going to be here to make the playoffs. Now they won 2 games back to back, or 1 game away from the Super Bowl. It's a great story. Like their Bengals are so fun, so exciting to watch. But before we head into them, I just want to speak a little bit about Tennessee because you alluded to how good the defense was, and they had 9 sacks in the playoff game. Totally rebuilt it in one off season, and they deserve to be in this next game. Unfortunately, they're not going there. And it's crazy because like the 2 teams you kind of mentioned in the preview were getting guys back, and the Titans were kind of one of those teams, as well as the Packers. Like it doesn't always work out that way. Like Henry clearly wasn't 100%. Julio actually did look better than he has in quite a long time, but I think chemistry and stuff like that got in the way, especially for the Titans. Like Tannehill obviously had some turnovers that shouldn't have been turnovers, but and they had a chance to win it at the end too before getting intercepted. I don't think he needed to fit that in there. But it is what it is. Like it's just for the number 1 seed, like Tennessee overcame so much this year. I just think their fans are probably disappointed by that too. Because honestly, I think they were the better team. But when you turn the ball over 3 times, you give the other team a good chance of winning, and that's what the Bengals did. So
100%, bro. And I would say, I guess, with the Packers and the Titans going down, and the Bengals, like you said, just awesome year that they've had. I wonder now if Zach Taylor has kind of clinched that Coach of the Year award.
Yeah, I mean, who else would be in consideration?
I mean, I feel like it was LaFleur or Vrabel.
Yeah, I was thinking of Averill, but like then again, I don't even know if I can fault him because his defense had 9 sacks in the playoff game. So and everything they overcame. But then again, I guess Titans were expected to make the playoffs before the season started.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly a shock that they're there. But yeah, I mean, and we'll come back to the Bengals when we're talking about the
Preview.
the preview for the championship games. But let's move on to the second game of that Saturday night, the Niners at the Packers. This kind of I'm kind of shocked by the way it went. Like the Niners have a really, really good team. I'm just like stunned by how well the Packers defense played. Like clearly it was very defensive game, like an old school type of game. And the Niners didn't even score an offensive touchdown, yet they somehow managed to go into Lambeau and win. Just something no one would have predicted. It was a good game. Like the Niners did move the ball a couple times, but the Packers held in there and did their thing. Their defense was incredible. This is the best Packers defense in quite a long time. You got to be disappointed, I think, with the offense. As bad as the special teams was for the Packers, and it was all season, and it obviously came back to haunt them in this game with the blocked punt return for a touchdown. Rodgers had a chance to win this and put it away quite a few times, especially when there was like 3 minutes left in the game. He has Lazard streaking wide open, but he predetermined to throw to Devontae. And like, I get it. Like, you don't really have anybody you trust on the team, but in a situation like this against a defense like the Niners are bracketing Devontae all day outside of the first drive. So like that clearly worked. And then, you just didn't, I feel like, and I don't want to put it all on Rodgers because like, it's a team game. And I think that shows with these NFL playoffs, but I think in this particular game that Rodgers should have had enough to win it. And obviously it didn't happen.
Yeah, I agree with all the points you made. I mean, the Packers defense and just their general health. I mean, obviously not having Bakhtiari was tough.
Yeah.
But their defense brought it. They put together a winning performance. Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams, I both thought were great. Like you said, Aaron, it was the first drive was good, and then from there they just could not get anything going. The special teams were just awful all year, and it's basically a 10-point swing with the field goal before the half and then the block punt for the touchdown. For the 49ers, I mean, it was obviously a lot of the same defensively, with Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead. Like you said, they did a good job bracketing Devontae. Fred Warner was great, with his injury. And then, offensively, I mean, aside from the one mistake Jimmy made, like considering the elements, I thought he managed it, well. It wasn't like their best game running the ball like we've come to expect, with Kyle Shanahan, but I feel like Elijah Mitchell and Debo, just did enough, you know what I mean? And Kyle Juszczyk, even with a couple of those fallback traps. Kittle made a couple of big plays, which was good to see. And it was just like you said, it was a great game. And you felt like the longer it went on and the closer it stayed that there was a better chance the 49ers were going to win. And they did. Robbie Gould was huge.
Yeah. And it's because, I mean, I think even if the Packers somehow managed to fall on top of that punt block, even though it wasn't right, would have been first and goal.
Right.
I don't think the Niners scored a touchdown. That's just not the way the game went. So just
Kyle Shanahan even said in the post-game press conference, he was like, that would have been tough to get it in there.
Yeah, because Packers are actually one of the only teams I've seen it bring it to the Niners this year in terms of physicality. A lot of the reasons why the Niners are so successful is because of how they obviously have a really good roster, but it's because of how physical they are in the trenches, and especially the Packers defense. They really brought it to that Niners front. So we'll speak about the Niners obviously going forward because I think a lot of people like them again this weekend against the Rams, but we'll speak about them I guess in their championship game. I feel like we're focusing more on the losers in the recap because obviously they're not advancing and their season's over. So let's hop over to the next game, the start of Sunday games, the Rams and the Bucks. Rams kind of got out to a big lead. I honestly thought it should have been a blowout, and it could have been. The first half went extremely well. Matthew Stafford was on fire. Cooper Kupp obviously did his thing with like a 70-yard touchdown. And it all was going well. The Rams defense really came to play. That looked like vintage Von Miller out there for the entire game. So that's big for the Rams just going forward as well. And the Bucks really didn't, in their defense, Godwin's not playing, and I feel like a lot of people mentioned this already. You could just tell that the Bucks offense wasn't what it was, just going back even a month ago, and then especially with last season. And give them credit, they hung in there, they fought back, and almost really came back because that's what. And you could say some of it's a little bit of luck, I guess, because Cam Akers fumbled on like the 1-yard line before halftime. I get all that, but the Bucks still did come back and did make some nice defensive plays, especially toward in the second half to caused some of those fumbles with Cooper Kupp and then Cam Akers again, obviously. But I think the Rams were the better team just overall. I think they matched up well against them. That's the only pick I got right last week. So, and I'm glad through everything that happened, with the game tied in 39 seconds, that Stafford was the one who actually basically got them to win. Like stood in the pocket, drove them down the field, and obviously Cooper Kupp did his thing. But just an incredible throw, which I think is getting not enough praise. And this is why they got Stafford. I'm not sure if golf is able to do the same thing. Personally, if a game went like that, the way it did with all those fumbles and stuff, I think they end up losing that with golf, and just in my opinion. So, and we'll see. But I'm excited for the Rams, and I think round 3 is going to be a hell of a fight between them and the Niners.
100%. Great moment there for Matthew Stafford. You felt like that first game they relied so much on the running game, just tried to make it easy on him. And then this week they opened it up, and he delivered for him in a big way. Cooper Kupp was fantastic, as he has been all year. Odell made some big plays for them. And then obviously up front, with Aaron Donald, Vaughn, and Leonard Floyd, they got after it. That was the big concern with the Bucs, obviously, was just, not even the, Godwin injury, not having AB, but just how was their offensive line going to do against that dominant Rams front? And they struggled. Tom was forced to get the ball out. I still felt like Tom, Mike, they played well, Gronk. Tough way for them to go down, but you said it. The Rams were the better team, and they deserve to be moving on more than the Bucs.
Wirfs was the biggest loss because they were getting beat on both sides then on the left and right. So, but all right, let's go into our last game, which I think was the best game of the weekend. Probably the best game I've ever seen, honestly, especially the last 2 minutes. Just absolutely crazy. Chiefs, and Bills, just it lived up to the hype, and it definitely, I think it went over the hype, overachieved. For the last 10 minutes in real life, it just absolutely, I was glued to my seat. I didn't even know who I wanted to win. I was just so excited that all these big plays were happening. And, I feel bad for the Bills because incredible team, number 1 defense all year. And then to give up with 30 seconds left, Kelsey over the middle, just, in my opinion, just ridiculous. But hell of a season for them. Josh Allen played extremely well, lights out. Gabe Davis, 4 touchdowns. Just I think the Chiefs kind of went into it saying that Diggs isn't going to beat us. So they kind of did a pretty decent job on him. And you know what? The Bills, it didn't matter because Gabe Davis scored 4 touchdowns. So incredible game of football. I do think it's unfortunate that someone had to lose that game. I know a lot of people are going to bring up the overtime rules, but at the same time, the defense gave up a field goal with 13 seconds left. And then, in overtime, there is defense being played. I understand how the game is going. It's a shootout, but you just don't let them in the end zone. You get a chance back. So, in my opinion, it does suck. And if I was a Jets fan and that happened to us, I'd be complaining a little bit too, because the way Allen played, you just want him to get the ball back because you feel like he could answer that and score again. But I still think I don't really love the overtime rule, but I just I understand it and I'm good with it. So.
Right. It's definitely much better than what it used to be with kicking a field goal and winning it. So, you said it best. Look, both teams were fantastic, deserved to win. Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen are 2 special quarterbacks who hopefully this is, a battle for many years to come between them. Obviously, Tyreek, Travis, McCole Hardman were all great. Clyde Edwards-Helaire looked good. For the Bills, Josh Allen, Gabe Davis, Motor Singletary, Cole Beasley. They all played really well. It was just the Bills' defense was definitely disappointing. I feel like the loss of Tre'Davious White was definitely evident at times. And they just simply, they got pressure on Mahomes, but they allowed him to get off his spot. They never really were able to bring him down. And I feel like that was just really the difference in this game.
Yeah, and it's disappointing because, Bills, especially just speaking about their defense, number 1 all year, they're really well coached. But against the Chiefs, for whatever reason, man, and this has been going on for years, they just don't match up well. I think that's what it is. The Bills is kind of, and I think the Chiefs have been just picking on Edmonds for years now. And I don't want to blame one guy because it's a unit, but they're clearly throwing it right over his head and in the middle. But with that being said, the Chiefs have special players like Tyreek Hill taking that contested catch and then running all the way up for a touchdown. That's just a special play. But the Kelsey thing is just inexcusable to me. That's crazy and a heartbreaking way to lose. But still an incredible season. So I don't want to just completely take away from the Bills like that, because at the end of the day, they've been here for the last couple of years. I think they're only getting better at this point. So
100%. I think the year 2 and year 3 progression of both McCole Hardman and Gabe Davis was on display. I think Gabe Davis needs a big role next
yeah,
year.
he will.
He was somebody we both liked too in that
Yeah.
draft. And then I would say for the Bills, I mean, I still think they're here to stay. It's obviously a crushing way to end, but they were much better this year playing the Chiefs. Obviously, they beat them in Week 5. They really crushed them that game, and I feel like they got a lot to feel good about.
Yeah. So before we head into the change of games, I think we should just mention some of the coaching and some of the GM hires. Any that really stick out to you, or you want to just name them off first and then speak about them?
We just go with all of them in order. Obviously, like I said, it was right after the episode we did, NFL episode we did last Thursday night. I think Shane was hired Friday morning.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like that, obviously, and I think it's the right hire for the Giants. It's something new. For too long, they've just been like kind of stuck in their ways, relying on history and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I think Shane gives them, a needed change. He was my top candidate for a while now, really dating back to last year, being right there with Brandon Beane at the forefront of the Bills rebuild. Obviously, we were just talking about them. You look at the value that they've been able to find in free agency in the draft. He's a scout. I think it's a good hire for the Giants, and they're going in the right direction with him.
Yeah, just to speak off the word you said, because you basically nailed it. I think Giants fans are just happy it's not a Dave Gettleman again. Like, even I feel like most people when they hired him weren't that excited in the first place. Like, this gives you reasons to be optimistic, and like you said, not really choosing from in-house. There's some reports of that a couple weeks ago. I never really thought that was going to work out. And it really sounds like the Giants candidate's probably going to come down to Dable or Flores as head coach, possibly. Obviously, it's not a foregone conclusion, but that's where it sounds like a lot of their second round interviews have gone. So we'll see. I think as a Giants fan, going forward, at least it's way more excited than you've probably been in a long time. So
for sure. So really, the next two were the Vikings and the Bears. The Vikings hiring Kwesi Adafo-Mensah, and then the Bears with around the same time they hired Ryan Poles, and then today they brought Matt Eberflus over from the Colts, who was their defensive coordinator. Obviously, starting with the Vikings with Adafo-Mensah, he was with the Browns the last couple of years, who've obviously been heavy with analytics. He's got a background with it. It'll be interesting to see really the two big decisions that they're going to have to make are with Kirk Cousins and Danielle Hunter. And I feel like that'll kind of give us an idea on what the direction they're going to take. They're going to continue to try to win now with some of these guys like Adam Thielen, Harrison Smith, Eric Kendricks, or if they're really going to try and tear it down. So that'll be worth noting. And obviously the head coach that they bring in, I think Kevin O'Connell has been linked there.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, a lot of people are celebrating this Vikings hire. I seen they were tweeting at the nerds on Twitter, which I thought was pretty funny and ironic. But who knows? Maybe it'll work out. Like, the Vikings have been in a weird place, like you said, and they have a lot of decisions to make this offseason regarding the roster. I think you're stuck with Kirk just based on the contract, which necessarily isn't a bad thing. But at the same time, it's like I think some teams would rather just or new GMs kind of want to just come in and build their own team. So they're just kind of stuck in a weird place because they have a good roster. I feel like we've been saying this for years about them, but eventually when you sign all the guys they've signed, it's coming. There's some tough decisions to make. And I do wonder who they're going to hire as coach. You mentioned Kevin O'Connell. Haven't really heard anything else with the Vikings regarding any kind of top candidates. So I think they have their eyes on a few. But obviously now that they hired a GM, he'll probably be involved in the process for that. But
yeah, certainly. So that'll be pretty interesting.
Yeah, so let's go on to the Bears. Kind of the second team to hire a coach. Kind of came right after, I feel like minutes after the first head coaching hire, which we'll speak about in a little bit. I did not expect the Bears to go with Eberflus. I feel like he's been mentioned for a couple teams, and he has been getting, I feel like, the second round of interviews for, I think, 2 to 3 teams. I think the Jaguars are one of them. Obviously, the Bears, and I believe there was one more in there. So obviously, he was a hot candidate in this coaching cycle. But with that being said, I think it's too early to judge. I think he did a lot of good things with the Colts, kind of maximizing some of the deficiencies they kind of didn't have with that defense. Obviously, I think there was some frustrations from fans from the Colts side just regarding his defense. But at the same time, I'm just interested to see who he hires for the offense because any Bears fans watching this really only cares about the development and going forward of Justin Fields. So right now, I don't really have, as a coach, I think it's probably well deserved considering what he's done over the last couple of years to get this opportunity. But it's really his success is gonna be regarding his plan for Justin Fields and how that goes over the next couple of seasons.
Certainly. I agree with that point there on Eberflus. 2020, he had a great defensive unit with the Colts. I do wonder, like, the scheme change and just some of the big contracts that they have with, like, Eddie Goldman, Khalil Mack, Robert Quinn, Eddie Jackson. Like, if there could potentially be any changes, what happens with Roquan and his contract. And then obviously that all ties into Ryan Poles as well, who comes over from the Chiefs. He brings a lot of youth. He played for the Bears. And when you're around the Chiefs and Brett Beach, he was around John Dorsey and Scott Pioli, I want to say, as well. He was there for, I think, probably 12 years or so, I want to say I saw. So obviously that's ideal when you're trying to turn it around like the Bears are, taking someone from the Chiefs. So it'll be interesting. And obviously, like you said, the development of Justin Fields will be huge. And some of the other young core pieces they have there offensively with Dave Montgomery, Darnell Mooney, Khalil Herbert, Cole Kmet, Tevin Jenkins, what happens with James Daniels. So a lot going on there with the Bears. And then the other recent head coaching hiring was Nathaniel Hackett for the Denver Broncos, which was this morning. Obviously, the dots everyone's going to try to connect are now Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams go to the Denver Broncos. It's definitely an interesting thought. I can't say like I'm 100%. We'll get into Aaron a little bit more specifically in a bit, but with the Hackett hire, I guess, like I said, I never felt like any of these coaches stood out too much, but I guess Hackett probably was deserving, having been with LaFleur the last 3 years now with the Packers, the success that they've had, and the Broncos offensively have to be better, obviously starting with the quarterback position. So.
Yeah, I didn't really expect. I thought Denver was going to hire Dan Quinn personally. I think that's where Dan Quinn wanted to go, and obviously the news broke that he's going to stay with Dallas one more year, and then I guess see what happens next year. It wouldn't even surprise if he actually takes over from McCarthy. We'll see what happens with Dallas, but just next season, I think that was what he wanted, and I think that's why he withdrew so quickly after Denver decided to go with Hackett. It's certainly interesting. I think a lot of teams do this when they kind of have they had a Vic Fangio, the defensive guy, and a lot of teams tend to flip the script and then take an offensive guy and try to change it up. Hackett's interesting. Obviously he hasn't been calling the plays, but like you said, he's been with before the last couple of seasons. Rodgers has raved about him for the last 2 years. So we'll see what happens. It's tough to comment right now because you just don't know. It's too early. Granted, I know a lot of Broncos fans are going to want Aaron Rodgers. And you know what? I think it's definitely more of a possibility than I thought it was going to be a week ago. So.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So a couple of the other teams who are still looking for head coaches, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Houston Texans. Obviously, we talked about the Vikings. You have the Dolphins, the Raiders. We talked about the Giants. With the Texans, I feel like there has been absolutely nothing new. With the Jags, obviously, it's been Byron Leftwich, Vic Fangio, and nothing really else there. The Raiders, obviously Jim Harbaugh. There's been some buzz. They did an interview, I want to say, for Josh McDaniels. And then with the Dolphins, it's either Daboll, obviously we talked about him with the Giants, or if they go for other young offensive minds in Mike McDaniel or Kellen Moore. So any thoughts on any of those openings?
Yeah. Well, I don't want Mike McDaniels to hire to the Dolphins because we are Jet fans, and I do not want to deal with that man. I think he would be the best. This is high praise. I think he would be the best head coaching hire from all of the names we listed. Maybe outside of Flores, who I really, really like, but we'll see. Obviously, nothing's set in stone with the Dolphins. Dolphins actually said today they're basically regrouping and they're not going to make a decision for at least, I think, another week, which is kind of surprising considering all the time that all these teams have had. But you know what? At the end of the day, as an organization, you got to get it right. So I guess take the time you need. Texans have been radio silent ever since we heard Mayo as a possible option. I feel like basically at the starting of the openings, and then since then I think O'Connell was the only other one that got leaked as an interview. So we'll see with the Texans. They're just kind of been a weird organization the last 2-3 years. The Giants. Well, let's go to the Jaguars first because I feel like those fans, a lot of them are expecting Leftwich. It probably should be Leftwich, but I feel like there's obviously some kind of power play going on with Trent Balake, and he's kind of holding this whole thing up. I think it would be an epic failure if they hire Fangio as the head coach, if that's what it comes to. But not that he's a bad coach. I think he's an excellent defensive coordinator, but I feel like you've seen his limitations with Denver, and for the development of Trevor Lawrence, I just wouldn't like that. The Giants have also been. I thought it was gonna be Dable, but we'll see. I feel like now I thought it was gonna be Dable a couple of days ago. It still could be, but I'm kind of leaning toward. I think Flores might be the option for them.
Yeah, I mean, all those points, like you said with Fangio. I mean, as a defensive mind, I do love him, but we just saw this a couple of years ago with as Jets fans with Sam Darnold. Like you gotta get the offensive mind right, and I think that's what Leftwich would bring.
Yeah.
Obviously, Trent Baalke was just hired as a GM last year, and clearly wants to still, have the final say in personnel. So that'll definitely be worth monitoring. O'Connell, obviously, with the Vikings, we talked about. The Giants with Daboll and Flores, it seems like it could go either way. And you were right about the Dolphins with McDaniel. I mean, that would definitely be just because I love the Shanahan offense we saw with Michael LaFleur this year and what he was able to do with Zach Wilson. So, it should be interesting. And the Raiders, I mean, I feel like Harbaugh would be a good hire there with Derek Carr. So it'll all be interesting. I feel like things are starting to pick up a little bit. We'll
Yeah,
have more soon.
just a quick note. I guess I think you mentioned it. I didn't mention it for the Raiders. Well, we mentioned his name, but I feel like Josh McDaniels is going to be the hire there. That's just what I just kind of reading the Schefter tweet. If you go back and tweeted a couple hours ago, it just sounds like because the Patriots have Bill O'Brien already lined up as offensive coordinator as an option. So to me, that sounds like a team that was aware of a possible route this person's going to go. Obviously, could be wrong. That's just what I'm kind of anticipating. And I feel like Harbaugh would have happened by now. There would have been a little bit
Right.
more leaks. At the same time, it could still happen. I think the Raiders were the team that was. I think Jay Glazer said they were the team going for the splash hire. So then everyone thought Harbaugh immediately, and then he had the contract. Still talks with Michigan. Could still go that way. I'm just kind of expecting it to be McDaniels at this point.
That's interesting about O'Brien. I didn't even see that myself. So
Yeah,
that's
it
a
was
good
like
point.
2 minutes after, which made me just think, okay,
Okay.
they're lining it up right now. So, but
Yep.
anyway, definitely we had a lot of news over the last 2 days regarding all these openings and with GMs and coaches.
Yep.
It's been a lot this season, or this off season.
For
So
sure.
let's head into the most important part is the games, the championship games this weekend, the ones that everyone looking forward to. A couple good matchups. Obviously, you got we'll start with the AFC game because that's on first, I believe, Sunday at 3:30. Is the Chiefs?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, 3 or 3:30. Bengals at Chiefs. Just two teams I think we picked against last week to be here. So we'll see. We got a 50% chance to get this one right. I think I'm gonna go Chiefs. They're just experienced. They've been here, been the last 4 championship games. That was the Chiefs team that I remember playing against the Bills. That's not the Chiefs team I've seen all year though. That's the issue. But like that's the Mahomes. That's the offense that we've seen for the last couple seasons. But obviously this year it's been very up and down and more so down. I think most people would agree with that. But obviously Mahomes and them can turn it on any day, and we've seen that. But I still give the Bengals a good chance in this one. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I just think I just I don't see. I don't know if the Chiefs are going to be like that again. That's the thing, because like the Steelers game, I just take it with a grain of salt because everyone expected the Steelers shouldn't have been there. So at that point, it's not really like a playoff kind of game. But the Bengals have defied expectations all season. They stay in games they shouldn't be in. Your quarterback got sacked 9 times. Like how many teams win those games? Not many. A lot of those games are blowouts. So definitely not writing off the Bengals. Like Joe Burrow. I do wonder if the Chiefs' game plan is to not let Jamar Chase go, one-on-one for most of the day. I feel like they should bracket him kind of like they did Diggs, and then let guy. I mean, I still think T. Higgins can take advantage of the one-on-ones, but obviously, I think the Chiefs, you can just say, if Higgins beats us and Boyd, so be it. We're just not going to let Chase get 200 yards again. For the Bengals, I think to win this, I think you kind of need a running game a little bit. I feel like that's been lacking in the playoffs, especially. Mixon's been, he's had a good season, a really good season, bounce back year, but I feel like in the championship game, you're going to have to run on the Chiefs and hold the ball a little bit because as you've seen the Chiefs and Bills game, obviously it was very exciting the last couple minutes, but the Chiefs love to hold the ball for like 7 minutes, those long drives. So Bengals are going to have to try to do that themselves, and then obviously score when it matters. But I'm
Yeah,
going to Chiefs.
absolutely. I mean, both of these games are very tough to predict. Like last weekend, I feel like similar to last weekend, both of these games could be decided by field goals at the last minute, and it's like who has the ball last is going to win. Um, I am taking the Chiefs. I mean, it's so hard to go against Joe Burrow and the Bengals and what they've done. Like you said, they've defied every expectation to this point. And they've had a special season, honestly. So it's hard to go against them. I think you said it best, really, from the Bengals offense and the Chiefs defense. Their philosophies, getting Joe Mixon going is going to be important. Really limiting Jamar Chase, will be crucial, and having T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, C.J. Uzama having big games, and their front has got to be better. Obviously, in this game, getting after Burrow, which is also where the running game comes in. And then really, I feel like the Chiefs offense and the Bengals defense could be a good back and forth, especially in the trenches. I mean, I feel like the Bengals D line, we've talked about Trey Hendrickson, DJ Reader, some of those players that they have, um, could get after Mahomes and make things tough. I guess, where Clyde Edwards-Helaire is at, if he's, healthier and take on more work, that'd be beneficial. And look, slowing down Tyreek, McCall, and Kelsey is not easy. So I think it's very tough to go against the Bengals just with what they've done, but I'm going to say the Chiefs by a field goal.
And I will say this: I am rooting for the Bengals. I'm not going to let it known. Like, I'm rooting for the Bengals. I love the underdog story. And my philosophy mostly is the Chiefs have been here for the last 4 years. I'm not saying I'm getting tired of it, but I was even rooting for the Bills toward the end of that game too. I just wanted to see someone new. But you know what? The Chiefs are still likable, but I just feel like when the team kind of just dominates like this, it almost like, all right, let me go for the underdog, especially the Bengals. Like, this is the classic underdog story. So we'll see. I just hope we get a quality game, honestly. I just don't want it to be, because this could be a game where like the Bengals aren't ready for the moment. I know they have been all season. I just don't want it to be that where it's like, the young team, and then AFC Championship game. It's a lot of expectations on them. So, but the Bengals have given us no reason to doubt. We'll leave it at that. So let's go on to the. We'll let you speak about this one first. I'm interested in what you're going to say, because I feel like most people are going to go with this team, but I don't know. 49ers at Rams.
It's another game, like I said, could really – I've gone back and forth. I could see both teams winning. I think it's probably going to be determined by a field goal at the end. It's going to be interesting. I feel like the 49ers fans are probably going to show up and show out, which has been an interesting dynamic to see throughout this week. I think the 49ers, dating back to 2019 now, when they made the Super Bowl, are 6-0, I want to say, against the Rams since. So they've kind of had their number. But at the same time, I guess you could say the Rams are kind of due to beat them. It's just, if Jimmy Garoppolo can take care of the football, I feel like aside from that one interception last week, like there were some good throws he made. Just continuing to rely on Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, Mitchell, Juszczyk, playing to that offensive line led by Trent Williams. They can score some points. It should be a good battle in the trenches against AD, Vaughn, Leonard Floyd. It should be fun to see too when Jalen and Debo are matched up. And then on the other side of things, I mean, I feel like the Niners front with Bosa and Armstead could once again be a handful. Even DJ Jones, Arden Key, Samson Ebukam. For the Rams, it's just going to be about Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Odell. These guys just continuing to, make big plays. It's really going to be a great game. I mean, two awesome coaches. I love Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay. It's going to be – I feel like there's going to be a good chunk scoring. And ultimately a Rams win by a field goal.
Okay, so you got Rams. All right, this is tough because you talked up the Niners a lot, and then you gave us this. You snuck in the Rams there.
Like I said, it could go either way. So
yeah, and you know what? Like, the Niners have had the Rams number. I don't really like looking at it because like I feel like Stafford does elevate the Rams, and you know what? They were up 17-0 in that Week 18 game, and obviously they blew it. But and it's tough because I do think the Niners. Like, I know everyone says it's McVay and Shanahan, and I get it. Like, it's 6-0, it's 6-0, but I feel like that has to more do with how well the Niners are to beat the Rams. It's just one of those things where, like, and the Niners are so good. Like, this is why we say it. Like, even going back to the wildcard weekend, like, realistically, like Dallas had such a good team, right? And we still picked the Niners in that game. Obviously, the Packers, number one seed. Like, it wasn't a shock then. It really, it was a shock of how the game went, but it really wasn't a shock that the Niners beat them. They've also had their number in the past, and it's because of how good the Niners are. Like, Trent Williams is questionable, so that's very, very big. That could have like a Tristan Wirfs effect if he doesn't play. He didn't practice these last 2 days, which is obviously today's Thursday, so there's still time for the game, but not an ideal thing to be heading into a playoff game. I think on an ankle injury. I think they're fine, but Debo kind of had a little bit of a scare Saturday night against the Packers, so we'll see. Obviously, guys are going to play if they can because this is the championship game, but I think it is fair to question maybe how healthy some of these guys are for the Niners, especially. But and it's funny because I actually put $5 on the Niners to make the Super Bowl like before Wild Card Weekend, and I'm still rooting for the Rams here. Like I like the Niners. I like this is one of those games that I know the Niners made the Super Bowl, but like they really haven't been here in quite a couple of years. Obviously, last year was a disaster with the injuries. I just love Matthew Stafford, and I hope that he pulls through and gets this one done. I will say I think the Niners are the better team right now. I don't care that the game's in LA. You kind of alluded to it. The last time they played, the Niners swarmed the stadium. Like the Rams kind of have. I feel like I've seen a lot of their Matthew Stafford's wife buying a lot of tickets and trying to give it to the Rams faithful. It kind of sucks they moved out of St. Louis, so this wouldn't have been an issue. But this is the kind of stuff I guess that happens when teams move cities. Basically. And it's going to be tough because I think the Niners match up really well, which is why they've beaten them the last couple of times. But I think you were a little bit higher on Garoppolo. I don't think he's been good this playoffs at all. But with that being said, like I'm still going to go Rams. But I think I'm going to be wrong here. But I'm going to go Rams I'm going to be optimistic that Stafford. The game is very close. Von Miller gets there quite a few times. Aaron Donald, of course, does his thing. The Niners are still going to do their thing. I think you're right. I think there will be points in this game. And everything tells me to pick the Niners, but I'm going to go Rams. So
yeah, I'm with you. You brought up a ton of great points. I guess the last thing, obviously the Rams are in this position because they made the move for Matthew Stafford. Now the 49ers similar. Last year they still had Jimmy under contract, but traded up for Trey Lance. At this point in time, with the 49ers making this playoff run, Jimmy Garoppolo has had 2 full starting seasons in the NFL as starting quarterback and has made 2 playoff runs. To you, do you think his status with the San Francisco 49ers for 2022 is like he's already with them, or this game it determines his fate?
I think he's gone either way, even if they make the Super Bowl.
Wow, that's something else.
I think I don't want to say because like there's clearly like a level of Jimmy Garoppolo is an NFL quarterback. Like he at least I don't know where you rank him, but he's a starter somewhere. He's out in the high end and he's not in the average class for me. And I just because the Niners are so good. Obviously, he's way above CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins, but like the Niners are basically here. And I'll say, I think Mina Khan said it today. They're not here because of Garoppolo. Like they're basically here because they're carrying him. But they traded 3 first-round picks as well for Trey Lance. Like I'm not rookie year. You can say he needed time for development. And that's probably true coming out of the North Dakota
He didn't
State.
play last year either, so
yeah. So I'm good with that. They gave him a year off, not a year off, but a year of development and training. And but no, I can't see him being the quarterback next year. And that's even if they win the Super Bowl, in my opinion.
it's funny. I do think because he's on the contract that he will be back, and then in 2023 it'll be Trey Lance's job. That's the way I see it right now. I think that team rallies around Jimmy. I think they
definitely like him. You can say that. Like the guys are defending him on Twitter. I'll give you that 100%. The Niners like him.
I'm saying, like, I think sometimes it's more than just what we see. It's not every quarterback is going to be Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, Rodgers, Brady. Like there is something intangibly speaking that I think Jimmy Garoppolo provides and the team feeds off of. And there is something to say. I mean, look, when they acquired him at the trade deadline in 2017, they were 1-10, and he brought a ton to that team. You saw in 18 and 20 when he was hurt, they were, picking 10 in the draft both those years. And both of these years, they've had playoff runs. Look, I think Trey Lance is eventually their guy. I just think you, at this point, have to keep Jimmy next year, is my point.
Yeah. Before we sign off, I'm not going to let you go that easily because especially last year, right? Like, yes, Jimmy got hurt, but how many Niners were injured? I feel like the whole entire team was injured.
Oh, their whole entire team. I agree.
So let's be fair there because that was just a crazy year with injuries. But there is something to be said. You can mention the trade deadline thing. that's 100% valid. Like the Niners weren't very good. He came in. But I feel like at that time, Jimmy Garoppolo was a different quarterback before the ACL injuries. I feel like he's just different now, especially in the pocket. I feel like he's a lot more comfortable. Now I feel like anytime that there's a lick of pressure, the man is just kind of dirting it but you mentioned the tangible thing. That's fair. I mean, clearly guys are coming on Twitter and defending him. They love him down there, which is fine. But I don't know how much he's loved, like if he's on many other NFL teams and they're starting quarterback. But, it really shouldn't be a topic at this point. They should be focusing on the NFC Championship game and
Agree.
see what happens. Go win the Super Bowl. Forget, like, as a fan, I wouldn't care how bad the quarterback is if my team won the Super Bowl. So
Absolutely. So a couple of just the final thing I wanted to cover tonight was a couple of big shakeups here. I mean, our entire football lives, we've known Sean Payton and Ben Roethlisberger to be glues to the league as the head coach of the New Orleans Saints and the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just your takeaways. I mean, for me, Ben was no surprise whatsoever. I was surprised he came back for this season. And Peyton, I guess I was expecting him to be back next year, but once you start to see those reports come out, you kind of start to realize like he's just not into being with the Saints anymore. Was my thought.
yeah, I took away the same thing. I even watched this press conference a day later. It just sounded like a goodbye to New Orleans, not really a goodbye to football. I think he basically even said it. He was brutally honest for all of his retirement press conference for the Saints. So we'll speak with him first. Like Sean Payton's Hall of Fame coach, what he did with New Orleans is incredible. Still one of the best, offensive minds in the game. But like you said, I don't think he wants to sit through a rebuild. Obviously, they've been the only team successfully to manage the cap for the last couple of years, and they still have young talent. I'm not saying they're not going to blow it all up, but in terms of like a lot of the older veterans leaving, last year was a little bit of the start of it. But without Breeze and the quarterback situation the way it is, I just don't think Sean Payton wanted to deal with that. I feel like it's going to be like you're going to lose, I think, quite a few people this offseason. That's Sean Payton didn't want to deal with, but.
100%. You said it best. Peyton's a Hall of Fame head coach. Did an incredible job. Him and Drew down there in New Orleans, bringing them a Super Bowl. So
Yep.
Unbelievably fun offenses to watch over the last 15, 16 years. And it was a great run that he had. Even this year to go 9-8 with that team was incredible.
Yep. They had a great defense this year, and that's not really Sean Payton, but we can bring up the next guy who might be their next head coach. Obviously, they haven't decided anything, but Dennis Allen obviously is a guy who's been a head coach in the league before, but I feel like now, kind of the last couple of years, I feel like he should have been getting more head coaching interviews to start with. But I think that's probably the direction the Saints are going to go in. Try to keep as much as they can in house, and then see what happens with this rebuild. But yeah, you got to be a little bit disappointed. I mean, even us we're not Saints fans, but we grew up watching him and just like knowing Sean Payton is one of those like guys like Belichick and Mike Tomlin. So never really thought, especially because Sean Payton's pretty young for a guy who's been coaching 15, 16 years and with the Saints. So it's crazy. It's gonna feel weird without seeing him in the Saints sideline.
Very strange. Just like it was, not having Breeze this year. And I do agree with you on Dennis Allen. I definitely would like that idea.
Yeah. Well, let's go to Ben. You basically touched on it. I thought he wasn't come back for 1 more year just because of how last year ended, where they started off like 10, 11-0 and then kind of went to a disaster. And Ben was clearly done. He probably should have retired after that, but I get it. Kind of just I feel like people forget how good he was, just because of the last couple of years, and just because. But just Ben's also another Hall of Famer, no doubt. I think he's the best quarterback in his draft class, and I don't think it's that close. I think. Well, I'll say I don't want to bring up the three because obviously that's a heated topic. I'll leave it at Ben at number one. I think what he did for like essentially the first 6 to 8 years of his career is remarkable. 2 Super Bowls in that span, and the Steelers are going to miss him. I'm interested to see, obviously not this last year's version of Ben, but I'm interested to see what the Steelers do going forward. Like Mike Tomlin, I still feel like he'll find a way to win games with no matter who he has a quarterback, and that includes if it is Mason Rudolph or Dwayne Haskins. But I feel like it is going to be. We've been losing a lot of the players that we grew up watching the last couple of years with Breeze, Rivers last year, both of them, Ben this year, and then I guess we'll kind of jump topic. He's not retiring as of right now, but I guess Brady's more of a question than we thought, especially the year that he just had. I don't think he won MVP, but he'll be number 2 in voting, whatever. You could make a case for him too if you wanted to. But it feels like it's more a possibility. Like this feels like either he's just going to retire or he's coming back for one more year. But he did say he doesn't want to do the farewell tour. But it just sounds like it finally like I think creeped up in his mind. Like I know he just mentioned a lot about the family and stuff the last couple of days, and just even following him on Instagram, reading some of his posts. It just sounds like even goodbye to some of the teammates. I know players always leave in the offseason and stuff, so it's not really saying goodbye. But I just feel like it might be the end for Brady.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, Tom and Aaron, they're how we'll end this episode here. I mean, I think with Tom, he will come back for one more year. I do think that. But you are right. I think he's even starting to realize that, the end is near. And then obviously we'll finish it out here with Aaron. Do you think he's back with the Packers? Do you think he goes with Hackett to the Broncos? What do you see there?
This one's really interesting, right? And thank you guys for sticking around. I know it's been a longer episode, but there's been obviously a lot to cover. It's been pretty fun the last couple of days. This one was something I thought was a lock a week ago, basically coming back to the Packers, and now I'd be shocked if he does. And I guess that's fair to, I guess, because it's not just the one game, but it's kind of the events that unfolded over the last couple of seasons, and then obviously the disappointing. It's not a first round exit, but it's their first game in the playoffs exit. So and hosting at Lambeau, and the Packers, another team that have so many caps. Rodgers said he doesn't want to be part of a rebuild, so. Yep. I think even, and I watched his interview too, obviously right after the game, but that's an emotional time, so I don't want to, that could be taken out of context. And I watched him for like 30 minutes on the Pat McAfee show, and it sounds like he's saying that he's gonna make a decision before free agency, just to be fair to the organization and the guys. So I think he is in good terms in regards to the organization, which probably you couldn't say the last couple seasons. But to me, it sounds like it's over there. I feel like he does want to team up with Devontae. I'm not sure that can happen, especially with a team like Denver. But besides Denver, I feel like that's the obvious one that everyone's gonna choose. So a lot of these, when quarterback trades happen and stuff, I feel like it's never to the team that people kind of predict. And Denver for sure, and it could still happen because they got Hackett. It makes sense. I mean, you're going to a tough division. You're playing against Herbert, Mahomes, and Carr, so it's not exactly the easiest situation to walk into. If I was him, I'd be looking at the Colts. Obviously, Wentz. If I can, I'm moving on. So the division's pretty easy. I'll be honest. I'd head down there if it's possible. I mean, the Colts can definitely find a way. I think they got cap space too to make it work. I don't know what other teams would be a possibility. Like obviously, Rodgers wants to win now. Like you're not just leaving the Packers to lead the Packers. He's trying to win the Super Bowl. So obviously the Broncos make a lot of sense. I'll say the Colts. I didn't really have anybody else in mind. I don't think there's going to be a ton of changes in terms of maybe the Bucs if Brady retires, but at that point they're also going to be losing guys too, I think. So just tough, I think, because he's not going to rebuilding team. Obviously there's tons of quarterbacks that are going to be replaced this offseason, but the situations wouldn't be for Rodgers.
Yeah, I agree. I felt the same way. Like last week, they were going to win the Super Bowl and he was going to be back with the Packers. But now I'm sitting here thinking he probably is gone. I do think you alluded to it. Like the relationship he has with Matt LaFleur has probably done a lot. But it still seems like he could very well be elsewhere in 2022.
Yeah. So we'll see. Right. Exciting.
Yeah. You got anything else, or we'll wrap this up?
No, that's it. Let's have fun watching the playoff games. I'm excited to come back next week and talk about our Super Bowl matchup.
Absolutely. Thank you all for tuning in. This was a longer one. And Monday we'll have some more Jets content. So stay tuned. Thank you all.